Welcome to the Talking Wallflower, the third episode of the Chatterview series. Today we will be talking with Shujin Tribble. If you don't know who he is, then pause the fucking video and go to fucking Google because that son of a bitch is all over the place. Shujin is here with us right now for the very first episode that is running on fucking time, because when you ask responsible people to come, responsible things happen. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and hand this off over to Susan. Susan, do me a favor. Who the fuck are you?
That is a long-running question.
In the most very basic sense.
In the very most basic sense. As folks might figure out, yes, Shujin Tribble is not my real name, of course. It's a moniker that I've been going by for quite a while on the internet. It's a combination of two terms. Tribble, of course, from Star Trek, because I'm a huge Star Trek nerd nut. Talk about that another time. And Shujin is a Japanese term, which, depending on the translation, is either husband or master, as in master of the house. And that's what my wife used to call me. And the way that people have got their terms back and forth, there's a slightly different version of it, which is Fujin, which is wife, which is what we called each other. I currently live outside of Buffalo, New York. I am officially atheist for the last few years out here, with basically an apatheist. I really just didn't care. Grew up Roman Catholic. I'm a single dad. I am a widower for the last 9.5 years, and I am doing my best to fulfill what I wasn't able to do in college, which is be a teacher, an educator. And my biggest, of course, is Tiny Tribble, as you saw just a couple of moments ago. She is 12 and is an amazing piece of my life. And as you see on my graphic over here, I'm also the host of the vlogcast that I started at the beginning of this year called Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, which is, yes, a little tip of the hat to Spaceballs, the movie. So I didn't particularly care for the movie entirely, but the title just stuck for me, and I just wanted to follow through with that.
Mel Brooks is a fucking genius. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. I didn't really care for Spaceballs as much as I cared for History of the World Part 1, but still a fucking genius. Well, this is the Talking Wallflower, and it is a very religiously biased, because I'm an asshole and I don't like religion. This is a religiously or atheistically based YouTube page. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with religion, what you experienced, what you grew up in, etc., etc.
Sure. For me, like I said, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. So my background starts off from there. My family's basically our second generation off the boat, mostly Italian. So, Roman Catholicism was the de facto. And I grew up on Long Island, where, again, Catholicism tended to be the thing for the area, which it wasn't a huge religious household that we had. It came up, during the holidays, Christmas, Easter, kinda, and whenever there was a wedding or a funeral, it was all part and parcel with that. I went through the catechism, which was not terribly surprising. So I had to go through confirmation and communion and all that stuff. And one of the things that really twisted on my mind was going through confirmation. Now, for those that don't really understand what confirmation is, it's basically a time when you get into your mid-teens, late teens, and you go through some extra training, some extra learning, and you are expected to pick a new name for yourself, or continue one of your own, a Christian name of some sort, and you would be recognized by the church as an adult with that name, and you would effectively be pledging yourself to the continued use of the church, is the only way I can really describe it. And one of the things that I remembered about it was hearing how the teacher for that had one, maybe two people through all the years that he'd been doing it who said, "No, I'm not really ready for this." And that kind of bugged me a little bit, because for me, it was really starting to feel like I was just doing this because it was what was expected of me instead of what I really wanted to. I didn't really feel it. I
Well,
wasn't.
did that lead to a separation from the church, or even a complete deconversion from faith?
No, as a matter of fact, I followed through because I figured I probably just should, because it was what you did. No different than you get up in the morning and you get ready for school when you got to get ready for the bus, because it's just what you do. I had had questions. I had had weird feelings of how stuff just didn't work when I remember my mom reading a couple of Bible stories, before bed for me, out of a kid's, biblical storybook. And the one about the flood was the one that really bothered me. And the
You mean
idea
Noah's
of
Ark?
Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
And the piece that I specifically remembered was that the rainbow was supposed to be a symbol of trust between God and humanity, that he would never flood the earth again. And even at like 8 years old, I knew that rainbows were made from light reflection and refraction in water droplets in the air, and that just, I remember that just didn't make any kind of sense to me. And you consider that at the time, there were a couple of little simple science books on lasers, as a matter of fact, that I loved the hell out of reading, simplistic as it was. The stuff, a couple of things just didn't really make sense, but it wasn't the piece that really started the domino falling until after I got out and away. And like I said, after confirmation and whatnot, I was apatheist, is the only way I can really describe it. I really just didn't care. But it's not been
Well,
until... I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, what did? Because you went from a reluctant believer to an apatheist.
Yeah, I just
Um,
just didn't really care. It felt like it was an hour out of my week that, why? It didn't hold anything for me really, other than, it was a familial obligation.
yeah. But what was the final thing? I mean, I understand I was on the same level where I was still going to church and doing taking all the steps, doing all the routine because it was expected of me, but at the same time reading like Popular Science magazine and National Geographic when they were actually covering like real topics, watching Discovery Channel. What was the thing that actually pushed you towards saying, this isn't just a waste of my time, but this is complete bullshit? And what finally got you away from that innate obligation to follow along with the family and the expectations?
There were a couple of things that really pushed me along. One of the things that had really stuck with me, and still does, resonates with me greatly, is a quote that I've taken for myself, and it held a lot more for me after my wife died in 2005. The quote actually comes back to, of all things, as much as people don't like me to credit it, and there's a story behind that sometime, was from 1996, from a little TV show that some people might have remembered at the time called Babylon 5.
Yes.
And it was Marcus Cole. Marcus was basically asked about his view of life and such, and he replied with the following line, and I quote directly: "I used to think that it was awful that life was so unfair. Then I thought, wouldn't it be much worse if life were fair, and that all the terrible things that happen to us come because we actually deserve them? So now I take great comfort in the general hostility and unfairness in the universe." And that kind of was one of the things that really held on to me. And it made sense, even though I really didn't think of there being a God per se. It made unfortunate sense for a lot of stuff that had happened. But really pushing me over the edge was a buddy of mine who online goes by the nickname of Dallin, and Jinya, and a couple of people who had suggested to me a couple of years ago, you should really listen to this podcast that we've been listening to. It's called the Geologic Podcast, but it has nothing to do with science. And they mentioned it a couple of times, a couple of weeks and gone by, and finally, like, you know what, fine, I'll do that. And that, to use an expression, was a slippery slope that really took me down to learning about George and all of what he does. Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and Skeptics with a K, Thank God I'm Atheist, The Thinking Atheist, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there are so many podcasts that I listen to at this point that are really helping me to work my brain, because I lost a lot when my wife died. I lost a lot of brain power, and a lot of this stuff is really helping me still to exercise and put a lot of that stuff back into place.
Well, that's understandable. It's hard to lose somebody that you not even just want, but you need in your life. I hope I never have to deal with that. I don't
And
mean I
no,
don't
and
mean that in a negative light. I don't know if I don't know if I personally would be able to handle it as well as you seem to have.
well, don't forget, I've also got 9.5 years of working through all of this at this point. I am hell a lot better than I was, and I still don't think of myself as anywhere near healed, not by a long shot. But I'm going to tell you the same thing that I've told many people before, including Cash, directly on air one time.
You mean
Unless,
the Skeptic Cash from AOA?
correct,
Like on air?
Cash. And by the way, Cash, if you do happen to be watching and such, thank you so much for so many things. What I told him was, unless you actually have to deal with that particular eventuality, don't seriously consider it ever, because the reality of it is chilling at the nicest and positively corrupting at the worst. Unless you absolutely have to be dealing with it, don't, until you have to.
Yeah, that's some good advice, because personally there's been times when I worry about it. I have a very dangerous job myself. I'm an arborist. I'm generally 35 to 65 feet up a tree with a very large chainsaw, and I don't worry myself for losing somebody, but I do worry very much for my girlfriend having to get that phone call, you know.
Sure. Sure,
So,
but as many of us would be able to tell you, so long as you follow the rules of how to do whatever the job is, it's born out of many times over of people going, okay, let's not do that again,
yeah,
and you can keep yourself reasonably safe. There's always that slim chance, but
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't have any more because they're no longer here. But I've had friends who have ignored the rules that have been set up over the past 120 years of my profession, and they ignore one small rule and they're no longer here. I just try and keep it out of my mind, the the cataclysm that my girlfriend, and I don't believe in marriage, so it will probably never come to wife, but my life partner, the person I have chosen to spend the rest of my life with, will have to deal with if I was to pull a dumbass move and ignore one of those rules. Anyway, to get off of the topic and not derail the general line of this Chatterview series that we have,
sure.
it seems that your deconversion happened a little bit later in life than my previous interviewees. Um, so what was it like for you to let your family know? I mean, I understand Catholics tend to be very set in their religion. Have you let your family know? And if so, how did you go about it, and what was it like when they found out?
Well, it's for me. It's been a little bit weird. Since I live outside of Buffalo, most of my family is a minimum of 50 miles away. My brother, well, one of my brothers lives out in Rochester, so it's a hour and a half drive minimum to see him. The vast majority of my family still lives in the New York metro area, and we don't really interact very much. Unfortunately, the stresses and strains of just getting by as a single dad and such has been tough enough. So, as far as to what do my family think, truthfully, there's two answers. One, I really don't care. If they are living well and they're not harming anybody, that's fine by me, and I expect the same of them. That so long as I'm not harming anybody and it's not affecting them, what the hell? But I've taken it the same track that I have taken. I will freely admit, being a brony, being a furry, that it's a non-issue for
Sorry,
me.
sorry, I must interrupt. I don't understand the need to quote unquote freely admit anything. You should have no reason to apologize for any personal, I guess, quirks you could say. So,
Exactly, and that's exactly the same way that I've taken as far as my religious ideology is. I don't apologize for it. It is what it is because I've chosen it for myself, and it's not harming anyone else, so it doesn't matter. It's the same way that somebody would say that they go to anime conventions or sci-fi cons, which I have done in the past.
or
It's
like
not
I would, or like I would say, I go to the steel competition, or I go to shooting ranges, or I'm a hunter.
or I perform in a marching band in competition.
Exactly. It makes no. There's.
Exactly. So
I'm
for me,
sorry. I blame Captain Morgan for this next statement.
quite all
There is
right.
no reason to apologize for anything that you are, unless it is a racist, a bigot, or in any other way detrimental to other people around you, there is no fucking reason that you should have to say, to be honest, I am, or I'm sorry, but I'm anything. That's
Well,
just,
to back up a second, because I'm gonna hit off of that one. As far as what I have become over time, I make it a non-issue. I am who I am, and I'm not harming anybody. So if you've got a problem with it, I'll talk it out with somebody. But ultimately, I'm me, and you take it or leave it as you choose, and such is what it is. But as far as to what you were saying about you shouldn't be a bigot or a racist or things like that, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't see people as having bad feelings for other people, however irrational they might be, as being a bad thing. You can be
well,
whatever you want to be. What you do with it
exactly.
determines what
That's
kind of
that's
person you
that's
are.
what I that's exactly what I meant. As long as you are not harming another person. You can
Exactly.
have your own personal opinion, but the second that you decide that somebody needs to die because they go against what you personally view, then I have a problem.
Well, to make sure that we're clear on this one, I would have specifically stated, so long as you don't do anything about that, as opposed to feeling. Feelings, you know what? People don't like me. People have, um,
I don't like you. You're an asshole. Go away.
and that's fine. But I have actually gotten that and been unfriended and banned from somebody on Facebook who knew me from high school because I did the grave injustice of asking a pointed question with actual numbers that were verifiable and checked. Because somebody was saying, Christians are persecuted, and wait a minute, if you guys make up 70+% of the population, how does that work exactly?
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is that people don't like these really inconvenient and detrimental to their view things that we call facts.
Goddamn facts.
Fucking hate them. So inconvenient.
Especially when you're trying to get your point across that you're hurting more because um, shut up.
Yeah, basically. Did you see that video? It's been floating around YouTube and Facebook and Tumblr of the girl that there's a street preacher. And she starts out real nice. She's like, you have no right to say this. Well, you do have a right, but it's not. I forget the word she used. She said it's not proper for you to be out tonight. And this street preacher keeps going on, and after a while, she pulls the common theist argument of la 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 la, pie hole needs to be shut, la 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 la.
Yep. And what I find the most fascinating about that is not the video itself. What I find incredibly interesting are the commentary that had followed it along, with people yelling and screaming about he's got a First Amendment right to be out there and do his thing. She shouldn't be censoring him. Wait a minute, she's not censoring him. She's not the
Well,
government.
both
She's
of them
exercising
have
her own first.
both of them have that equal First Amendment right. He
Yep.
has the right to be out there spouting bullshit, and she has the right to use the same exact argument that he would in any other circumstance against him.
Yep. As somebody best put it, your First Amendment right gives you the right to go ahead and speak your mind. It does not, however, write you a blank check to be heard.
Exactly. What was it?
I could be paraphrasing that from Seth Andrews from Thinking Atheist.
There's another one that's pretty common. I think it deals with the Second Amendment, right? But it kind of deals with the first at the same time. Your right to, uh, I want to say, the atheist experience, your right to free speech or your right to defend yourself ends at the other person's nose.
Your right to swing your arms. Yes.
There you go. That's what it was. Your right to swing your arms ends at the beginning of the other person's nose, or something along those lines. Once again, I blame
Quite
the
right.
cat.
No, you got it quite right.
So she has the right to say what she wanted to. He had the right to say what he wanted to.
Absolutely.
I forgot where
And
we were.
yeah, and I fully support that. As a matter of fact, I had to recently defend that position to somebody. I was accused of hiding my daughter away from religion, and it's like, no, wait a minute. I got no problem with religion. I got no problem with people learning about them. As a matter of fact, learn as many as you can. I just don't want my tax dollars being put towards allowing one more time than anybody else.
Yeah. Well, and I don't have any children myself, and I really don't plan on it, but I could understand the position of I do not want to indoctrinate my kids. If they want to learn about other things, then they can learn on their own what they are interested in. But I'm not going to press upon them my views and my beliefs or the beliefs of the populace and indoctrinate them in such a way that they have no choice.
Right, and that was something that my wife and I, were a little concerned about early on. My wife's mother is from Japan. As a matter of fact, she eloped, which gives you an idea as to how weird.
Sorry, not which city, which island? Because
She was
the way that the culture works, as far as I understand, is that it's slightly different as far as which island you're on.
a little bit so, and I'm trying to remember. The family is currently around Kagoshima, and if I remember correctly, I think she was from Tokunoshima, all the way down the south. Her family was fairly well off, I guess is the best way to put it. They owned property. They had people who worked the property for farming and such. And after the war, all of that wealth was split up differently and redistributed to the populace. So after World War II.
Okay.
So the family, of course, having land previous and not nearly so much afterwards, didn't necessarily like the Americans as one could probably imagine. If somebody suddenly said, okay, we're going to divvy up your property into thirds and other people are going to get those other 2/3 and you keep yours, you're not going to like that very much. So the fact that Mom eloped with a U.S. Army occupation force member.
Oh yeah, that'll piss off a lot of people.
That did not go over very well with the family.
Yeah.
So she converted over to Catholicism to be married to Dad, and because of that, Mom was concerned about Tiny Tribble's christening, asking when we were going to do it, and we basically said we're not going to. We're going to give her the opportunity to learn as much as she wants and make her own determination later for herself what she wants to follow. So to that end, I try to teach her as much as I can about as many different ideals as possible. She's listened to many podcasts along with me, loves a lot of them, and I will admit, even the scathing atheist, because I've taught her well that we can't control others. I'm sorry.
You can't try and shield somebody from the reality of how people are. And I don't blame you for allowing her, I guess you could say, because you don't really allow a teenager to do anything. They do what they want.
To a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've also made sure to teach her, even from the earliest, simple lessons that have long-range implications, and most importantly, how to think through a problem, how to think, not what to think, how to make a value judgment on such, and to use that later. And it has made all the difference in the world.
I can totally agree with that. You brought up that you listen to with your daughter some podcasts. Are there any of those that you would like to recommend to viewers? Things that you found particularly helpful in your situation or just generally entertaining in any way?
Oh,
You are,
absolutely.
I would
Uh,
say.
yeah, the three that come up first for me right away are George Robb and his Geologic podcast. He is a wonderful person. I've had the opportunity of talking with him a couple of times. We talked about old-time radio, Jack Benny, and oh God, I can't remember what the other guy's name was off the top of my head. Something that was very unrelated to such, atheistic stuff. But we share a common bond in that we grew up like 50 miles away from each other at the same time. He was in New Jersey, I was in New York, which we have a lot of the same cultural things. So it really fun to talk to him. Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Amazingly well put together group of people. Never mind the content of the show themselves. These guys know their stuff, and they know how to make it fun, make it interesting, and make it right far more often than they make it wrong. And the Thinking Atheist. Seth is also another person I've been hellaciously fortunate enough to talk to. And he's an amazing speaker. He knows what he's doing. He thinks things through. And all of these guys have got an immense amount of respect for the people that they're talking to and with. And I think that makes it all the difference in the world right away. If you're dealing with a family stepping a toe in, as it were, that's where I would even start off with. There are plenty of others once you get into the older ranges, and maybe you won't get into your angry phase. Barroom atheist to a certain degree, scathing atheist, cognitive dissonance. There are a lot of good guys out there. There are a ton of them that are hellaciously fun and eminently qualified in what they're doing. And to that end, I have to specifically single out the guys at Scathing Atheist. Their very first video showing was on my show, which was wonderful, which was great. And getting the opportunity of talking with Noah and Heath and Lucinda live, where there's no scripting being done. Noah is an amazing wordsmith. He is absolutely amazing. He is brilliant, and I absolutely adore what he's able to do. Him and Heath are masters of their craft, and I'm not blowing smoke. I don't do that, but they blew me away. Absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, no illusions. I have no idea how it happened. I'm guessing I was climbing a tree with my phone in my pocket, and I accidentally friended him on Facebook. And I started seeing all these posts come up, and I was like, who the fuck is this Noah guy? And I'm an idiot. I don't catch on to stuff very quickly. And I was listening to a podcast called Quranify Me, where there's this guy, Paul, and he's reading the Quran, and they had a skit called the Allah Bowl, the first episode of Allah Bowl. And I heard this name, No Illusions, and I was like, Okay, no illusions. Gotcha. Some guy's taking the moniker no illusions.
Hmm.
And later on in the day, I'm looking through my Facebook feed and I'm like, hold on. Noah illusions. That's fucking genius.
Yep.
And then it clicked on who it was. And I wish, like you said, his way of working with words is fucking amazing. I
It
wish
is.
I had a quarter of the capacity that that man has for wordsmithing, because then I wouldn't be talking to two
Me.
subscribers.
You wouldn't be talking to me. You'd be talking to people who actually matter.
Oh, you matter, dude. If,
Appreciate that.
if you didn't matter, I wouldn't have bothered fucking asking you.
Oh, who are you kidding? You needed time to fill and you needed a slot, and I was available. Shut up.
I do like filling slots. That is one of my hobbies.
Okay, okay, I got that. I'm gonna have to. Sorry, I'll get that out of my head. Sorry, never mind.
I have a
It's the
very.
booze talking. It's the booze talking.
My girlfriend's right here. She didn't get it either, so don't
It's
feel
okay.
too bad. Oh,
But in seriousness, though, for a second, even having the capacity of being able to think that quickly is an amazing thing. But it's not the end all be all. So if anybody kind of looks at it over afterwards and kind of wants to know, could you do, should you put on, you know, there's nothing wrong with not being X. Don't try to be Noah. Don't try to be a Matt Dillahunty. Don't try to be a Seth Andrews. Be you. And if you don't have the capacity for language the way that Noah does, hell, that never stopped. That never stopped Cash. I mean, he goes ahead and he admits freely. You know, there's when Cash was also, fortunately enough, on one
cash,
of my shows too.
cash.
Cash
You mean
Fierstein
cash?
from Atheist on Air.
Exactly.
At the beginning of the God, forgive me.
He's also a
I
redneck.
don't.
He's actually a pretty good fucking wordsmith. I'm just saying.
Yes, he and I don't mean to be dropping names, but there are so many times where things have gone so well because these other people bring in their perspectives and have granted me time out of their evening for this stuff. But when Cash was on, as we're doing through our introductions and having a good time of it, he went ahead and he showed this book that he had, yay thick, and it's
I ain't reading
effectively effectively a thesaurus, so that he was saying, you know, he uses this thing and he's flipping it open so that he can find all the words that he needs for all of his opening rants and types it all up, and he's flipping it through and he's just like, and it's all well and good until some asshole asks me to come on live and I can't use this stupid book, and everybody's looking at me now and they're just like, shit, he's talking about you. I know, I'm sorry.
Well,
But
actually,
it's great.
Atheists on Air is the first place that I heard about you. Um, I found them by accident through an app on Android, Secular or something like that, and I heard this stupid fucking ignorant, bigot, racist fucking preacher guy talking on the radio, and I was like, why the fuck do they have this on? This is fucking secular radio. And it turned out to be Pastor Roy from the Catfish Creek Trailer Park, and followed up behind that was Cass Ferguson from Atheists on Air, and sure enough, they had this weird fucking Shujin Tribble, way too nice, way too respectful person is showing up on their broadcast. And first I heard Cash and I was like, oh, okay, this is a redneck that gets it. And then I heard you come on and I was like, where the fuck's he from? The Bronx?
Originally Brooklyn. I worked a long time to get rid of the accent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I'm from Miami. We don't know any difference. New York and New Jersey are the same fucking place as far as we're concerned.
And things keep going the way that they're going. Miami's not going to be any different. You'll be overrun with all of my brethren soon enough.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, not even fucking joking.
Nope. Nope. That's a long running joke about that.
Yeah. Well, now we know what you like to listen to. Do you have any podcasts or anything like that that you would like to let everybody know about? I mean, you seem to be at least a three-quarters of the way intelligent human being. Um, if you have any podcasts or what do you do for fun that other people can enjoy?
Sure. Well, obviously, Holy Crap is my preeminent piece right now as far as to the free thinking movement is concerned. It really started to be my way of getting away from ranting and railing against stupidity in humanity with respect to religion because of some of the other stuff that I do during the week. Most of the days during the week, I do some online DJ streaming based out of Second Life, and I
Fuck is
have
Second?
a. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what the fuck is Second Life?
No.
I've heard of it a few times, but I honestly have no fucking clue what it is.
Okay, I'll explain that in a second. But the streams that I end up doing, a disco era stream for one night, which is late '60s, early '80s. Another one, Wednesdays specifically, is like my premiere piece, which is an '80s show. Another one where it's supposed to be naughty music, stuff that's supposed to be what you would want to listen to while you were not listening to the music, shall we say. And Friday nights is a kind of a semi-talk radio kind of thing. It's a morning show at morning zoo at night, where some music, some talk, commentary on news and such, and that kind of thing. Second Life, some people have described Second Life as IRC, or Internet Relay Chat, on acid. It's a
Oh?
it's a 3D rendered environment, but it's an opportunity for you to build and create and craft whatever you want your avatar to look like, which could be humanoid, could be animal based, could be robotic, doesn't matter. So long as you can craft 3D imagery, you can build whatever it is that you want up, and you can traverse different areas where people have built up 3D environments. In particular, the place that I go to DJ, one of which is a recreation of the roller rink from Xanadu, the movie from 1980, and another one is the Feline Conspiracy, which is effectively a dance club built into a caldera of a volcano. This is the way it's been sculpted and designed. So it's a video game of sorts. It's a
Like
social area.
Minecraft meets The Sims.
To a certain degree, yes. But as opposed to with The Sims, where they effectively do whatever it is that they want and you can direct them,
Yeah.
you are the
Except
Sim.
with World of Warcraft, where you have control over your character.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. Is there any way that we would be able to listen to your DJing without having to create some weird character and wander around in imaginary land?
Sure, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the streams are just any old regular internet radio stream. So you could pull it up on a phone, tablet, smart device, on your computer while I'm doing my thing. It's not that big a deal at all. There are a couple of different stream addresses that I work with, so probably the best way is to just follow me on G+, Twitter, Facebook, and I try to announce them typically the same day, roughly within 6 hours of when the events are going to be, and you'll be able to look them over from there and just take a listen. You can make requests. I can't promise to be able to play everything, but I do my damnedest.
Well, what would the Google Plus and Twitter and all
Oh,
that?
I'm
Just
sorry.
called Shujin Tribble, right?
Absolutely. Under G plus
Like
Twitter.
Google the fuck out of your name.
I'm sorry.
I said, or should we just Google the fuck out of your name?
You Google me, you will find more than you ever wanted to know. You'll find information about me from a whole bunch of different art sites. My Twitter feed is at Shujin Tribble. G plus, it's under the name Shujin Tribble. Facebook, it's under Shujin Tribble. It's I've been using that moniker for so long. It's easier, in truth, just to work with that from anything else.
So if I wanted to assassinate you, I could just like follow you on Google.
Sure,
Like kill your Second Life character.
you can try. But that means that you're going to have to sober up enough to put in the registration information. And truthfully, right now I don't see that happening.
Fuck that.
And I am done with my drink.
You should get another one because there's no way I'm finishing this tonight.
No, it's okay. Besides that, by the way, I had started, and it's kind of fallen by the wayside, a different video series called When I Was Your Age. And the idea was to kind of look at stuff that's common everyday stuff now, and what the origination of it was when I was growing up. So stuff now, what was it like in the 70s and the 80s? For instance, cell phones. Now, the closest thing to cell phones in the 70s and 80s didn't really exist. I mean, you had bag phones that were in cars, and we would look at that now and go,
The fuck is that shit?
"What? Is this like something from like American Gladiator? You're supposed to hit people with this? What is that?"
Yeah, you got what? 132.5 megabytes of memory tops, and that holds what, 16 phone numbers? Because they couldn't figure out how to do like regular fucking phone numbers.
Oh, dude, don't even start. The very first computer that I bought back in '89, the the hard drive was 100 megabytes, and I thought there's no way in hell I could ever fill that. And
Dude,
now my main
you're old
computer,
as fuck.
yeah, and now my
Throw
computer,
that out there, you're a dinosaur.
effectively, yeah. As a matter of fact, the computer manufacturer doesn't exist anymore. My first real computer was a Commodore 64, and then the one that I bought for myself was an Amiga, also from Commodore, an Amiga 2000, and it was truly badass. And if Commodore had actually
I
followed
feel
through with
kind of
it,
bad now for saying that because I own both a Commodore and an Amiga.
yeah. So you remember what they were like. If Commodore had been able to fulfill what the Amiga's abilities had been, I mean, light years away from what was common at the time. And unfortunately, it just, like with a lot of other technology, it just fell by the wayside because guys didn't follow through with it properly. They screwed themselves over. But the series, like I said, When I Was Your Age, I've I've unfortunately not had the opportunity of really filling that out as much as I would like to. It takes a lot of pre-production, a lot of post-production. It's really tough on me because of timing. 6 a.m. wake up to make sure that the little one is ready for school and getting ready for the bus. That takes a lot out. But I'm I'm wanting to get back to that because there are a lot of pieces that I still look at now and I just marvel at what there is, and it's like I should really cover that and just keep forgetting about it, and there's just so much that goes to it. But I will get back to those. Those are also still on YouTube, and again under the name Shujin Tribble. You'll find them if you feel interested at all.
Yeah, so basically just Google the living fuck out of Susan Tribble.
Yep. That's really it. And because it is such a weird term and weird name, people have heard me on Thank God I'm Atheist on occasion, typically referred to as Hargle Bargle Pony on some version or other like that. So if you've been listening to their show and you hear that, yeah, that's me. Guilty as charged.
um, well, if you don't mind,
No, ask anything you
I
like.
have somebody viewing right now. I'm gonna see if they want to come in and ask you a few questions.
Sure.
If I can't get them in for a minute or five, then I will see about. I'm gonna go ahead and shut down the live feed, and you and I can talk because I actually have a few questions from a friend that I don't really want to have live on YouTube.
No worries. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, for anybody that wants to follow up on this later, even people are welcome to ask me anything, literally anything that they want. The It comes down to whether or not I decide that I'm going to answer it, and I've always made the promise: if I am going to answer, I will answer truthfully, to the best of my ability, because knowledge is an amazing piece to foster understanding, to prevent people from being upset. Like you were talking about earlier, bigotry, racism, misunderstanding is the biggest piece of it all. And you take away the mystery, suddenly everybody wants to do the right thing. It's amazing how that works out.
Yeah. Well, the problem is I don't want to have a bunch of fucking assholes show up in my comment section.
That's fine
I'm
too.
I'm very non-confrontational, but if somebody pisses me off enough, I got no problem coming 5 states over to deliver an ass whooping.
Or, do it the easy way and just, where's that little ban button? I know it's here somewhere.
Yeah, but the ban button doesn't make for broken nose and black eyes.
And more the better.
Yeah, that does it does the ban button does keep me out of jail. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a very big dude, but I'm 6'1", multiple years in martial arts, and a very short temper. So I don't want to get myself in trouble. Um,
Well,
anyway,
I'm 5'9", trying to slim down, and thank you very much for making me feel inadequate. I appreciate that.
you're very welcome. If it makes you feel any better, I got a tiny dick.
Nah, because that doesn't affect me.
Uh,
You're
okay,
welcome.
well, guys, that has been Susan. Susan, do you want to say goodbye to the guys and gals that will be watching this in the future right after my tiny dick comment?
No worries. First off, like I said, never a problem with getting in contact with me to ask me stuff. I love it. I enjoy the hell out of learning new perspectives, and everyone has a perspective. It may not necessarily always be original for the overall, but it's yours, and that's something that I value learning. I will never learn everything, but I'm trying my damnedest to get as much as I can. So you all take good care of yourselves. I always tell people, always take two words away from me: never settle. Whatever your one true love is, never settle for anything less than that, because it is a waste of time. And, as I always say when I end for my shows, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well.
This guy is so much fucking more eloquent than I am. Um, thank you for watching the Talking Wallflower. This has been episode 3, Shooting Shit with Shujin Tribble, as noted in the title. You are all the reasons that I touch my stamen every night. So long. Farewell and stay logical, my friends.